Good day, class. Today we're going to discuss the coastal habitat and do a pre-trip for our Fort DeSoto Arrowhead grass flats trip. The grass flats are totally underwater, and you'll be wading through the grass flats for the second part of the trip. The first leg of the journey, you'll go through the maritime forest to the water's edge. At the water's edge, you'll encounter the mangrove, the salt marsh, and the mudflat habitat. When you enter the water, you'll be wading through grass flats. You'll need to go to Fort DeSoto, take a right at the large flagpole, and follow that road until you see the Arrowhead picnic area on the right. Enter and follow that road to the water's edge. Park at the water's edge. You will pass the self-guided nature trail, so backtrack, walk. It's a couple of 100 yards tops, and enter the trail. When you're on the path, stay on the path. There's poison ivy. Use this as a review. Ferns, slash pines, live oak, laurel oak, cedars, epiphytes, poison ivy, Virginia creeper, all the plants that we learned at the Maritime Forest when we were studying the Honeymoon Island. I will include a trip video to help guide you through this. Please use it as a reference only. I need you to go be an active participant. Go to Fort DeSoto. There is a $5 fee to get into the fort, and maybe $1.25 worth of tolls getting down there. So you're on the forest trail. You've turned left. You're heading toward the water. When you get to the water, you'll leave the trail. There'll be a small beach behind some sea grapes and a little bit of scrub. Small beach right at the water. On the left and the right, there'll be mangroves. Remember, red mangroves have prop roots. Black mangroves have pneumatophores, otherwise known as dead man fingers. White mangroves have nectaries, very round, little thicker leaves, often tattered. You'll also see, like I mentioned, the sea grapes. There'll be sea grapes there. Check out some of the branches on the scrub there. You'll see a lot of reindeer moss, which are lichen. A lot of times the seagrasses are washed up. When you look at the seagrass, when it's washed up, the wiry stuff you can spin in your fingers is manatee grass. The short, maybe 3-inch, really thin, flat shoal grass, and the long, ribbon-like, much thicker turtle grass. That grows in layers, as most things do, and the mangroves grow in layers. So, just a general layer, things do get mixed up. White mangroves, more landward. Heading toward the water, black mangroves, then red mangroves, then salt marsh, then mudflat, then totally underwater, seagrass. The first seagrass you should encounter, the shallowest, shoal grass. Then manatee grass mixed with turtle grass. Finally, turtle grass in the deepest water. So things are layered in that way. So when you get to the water, make your observations, take some pictures, identify, especially the mangroves, because part of this is mangrove. Look for salt marsh grass that is emergent. There should be some salt marsh grass growing along the edge. It's spartina, so it's not an extensive salt marsh meadow, but there should be some salt marsh grass, spartina, visible as well. When you walk out onto the flats, head toward the car, that's west, left, toward Bunce's Pass. Remember, it passes between two islands from the Gulf into the intercoastals. Try to get snails. You'll see crown conch, banded tulips, Sometimes horse conchs, a lot of lightning whelk. Needlefish should be swimming around. Needlefish are quite common. Cormorants sit on the day markers. Pelicans flying around, diving in. Maybe some dolphins. Dolphins are very common there. Make your way back toward the car. It's about a quarter mile. When you get there, careful getting out. Seawall, careful. Don't cut yourself on barnacles and other organisms. Limpets are there, limpets. Make sure you get as many pictures of these organisms as you can for your lab write-up and identification. Don't forget, plants are organisms too. So maritime forest plants, mangroves, seagrasses, salt marsh grass should all be on your organism log. Now, what is a salt marsh? Salt marshes are made of the emergent grass spartina. They're like a meadow, a wet meadow. During high tide, they're fully wet. During low tide, parts of it are wet, parts of it are dry, so they're inundated, not inundated, and the grass grows out of the water. That is salt marsh grass. So a lot of times, they trap sediments, and the mangroves move in, so the salt marsh gets pushed further and further out, and that's how coastlines expand a little bit. Right after the salt marsh, in a little deeper water, mudflats, only exposed during low tide. Wading birds love them because they can wade in the shallows or the mud and pick for crabs and clams. So that's mudflats. They're smelly, usually anoxic sediments, and a lot of bacterial growth there, so they smell like sulfur and methane. That's the mudflat. Seagrass beds are the flats, seagrass flats, grass flats. You can go about waist deep, neck deep seagrass beds. Here we get, they need clear water, so when you get a little deeper, there won't be seagrass beds. So, they're pretty shallow around here because our water, we don't have great light penetration. The shoal grass is the earliest when you walk out, shallow. Manatee grass, then turtle grass. So those are the most common Tampa Bay seagrasses. Now your trip report, you're gonna need to cover. Describe your conditions, weather, tides, temperature, abiotic factors. Pay close attention to sediment, currents, things like that. Be careful walking around, do a stingray shuffle. Remember, stingrays could be there. You're gonna need a species list. Organize them by kingdom first. So if you see that reindeer moss lichen growing on trees, that would be kingdom fungi. All the plants would be kingdom plantae. The animals, of course, would be kingdom animalia, and then you'll divide them up. If you see a dolphin, that would be in phylum Chordata. If you see crabs, you might see some blue crabs scurrying around, phylum Arthropodia. So divide them up by phyla. Name the producers. Obviously, you can put a star next to it and write producer when you are on your list, because all the plants and algae you find would be producers. Observation of 3 organisms. So make sure you see 3 organisms, observe what they're doing. Birds hunting, the osprey, soaring over, looking for food, an example, or pelicans diving, things like that. Some general commentary about your trip. And then there's questions. Make sure you include the references with your write-up and write in full sentences at the very least and full paragraphs for full credit. College level work is always rewarded with A's and B's. We will again have a virtual field trip posted to help guide you, but don't rely on that solely. You're going to need to go out there and be safe. Sunscreen, because you're going to be exposed. Wear a hat. Closed-toed shoes when you enter the water. You might cut yourself on some oysters or something. Got to wear closed-toed, solid bottom shoes. Stingray shuffle. So we have a couple of trips to Fort DeSoto. If you want to make a day of it, do the beach trip as well. And Natural History has the museum trip. So you have 3 tasks at Fort DeSoto. You can go there and get 3 weeks worth of work done in a day. Be safe, enjoy, and thank you.